tonight. So this is our second Distinguished Alumni Seminar here. We heard from John Breedlove and Chris Didio last time. And tonight we're going to hear from Jason Loomis, who has his bachelor's degree from the class of 2020, but he is the executive director of Great River Club up in Milford, Connecticut. The club, it's a breathtaking golf course designed by Tom Fazio. It meanders along the Housatonic River, across some lower tidal wetlands. I'd say it's about an hour's drive from TPC River Highlands, south and west of TPC River Highlands, where they played Travelers Championship last week. It is the home to Sacred Heart University men and women's golf team, and it's a fabulous course. Let me start by saying Jason, as the executive director of Great River Club, didn't graduate in 2020 and in that short period of time become the executive director of Great River Club. He graduated with his associate's degree back in 2012. We didn't have the bachelor's degree program yet. So Jason took his associate's degree from Keiser University back in 2012 and went off to start his career. He came back after a number of years, 8 years, or not quite that many. But he came back after he completed his PGA Class A program and completed his bachelor's degree. So Jason, let's start with this. Take me back to 2012. You just graduated with your associate's degree from Keiser University. I know you're from the Northeast, Connecticut, to be exact. What was your mindset then? What did you do? I know you were a good student, graduated magna cum laude, but what steps did you take to land that first job?
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you all for having me. Sorry I couldn't make it to the other one, but I'm happy to join you guys now. Yeah, so I didn't know too much about the golf industry. I love playing golf, and I really just had no clue how to get into it. And I had to finish, I took a couple years off after high school, so I didn't really know which way to go. And then I kind of, after some trial and error, I came to realize that, golf was the route I wanted to go in life. And then wasn't really sure how to crack into that door, and just kind of saw Keiser's website and it was a pretty new program when I was even reaching out to it. I don't even think they had their first original class signed up yet. I think they were still taking for their initial, class. So talked to the admissions people. I was like, all right, this is perfect. I can finish up, my schooling and, at least start learning more about the golf business. So moved down to Florida back when we were still in Port St. Lucie, and I think we were I think my graduating class was like the 4th or 5th graduating associate class. It was still a very new program, and it was great. Kind of gave me the good overview so that when I went to start finding a job, right, it was trying to build a resume. You don't really have much outside of, hey, I work at this, I went to this school and I kind of have this, somewhat background now into at least how the golf industry works, but, no experience. So just applied to every job, knowing that, you got to start basically at the bottom to a certain degree. Especially, I knew I was going to try and go that private sector, right? So having no experience is going to be very hard to jump right into an assistant position. So just every top club that I knew in the area, just throwing it out there, looking to, outside ops, whatever you need. I'll clean carts, for the right club. Heck, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll wash the windows if, you get me into Seminole, hell. But just, beg and pleaded. And I ended up, with the help of the staff at Keiser, getting into working outside operations at the Ocean Reef Club down in Key Largo, Florida. So I graduated in June because we were on that wheels system. So then I went home for a couple of months, actually started working outside operations at a little private club right next to me called Glastonbury Hills. And then in the winter of 2012, I went down and started working at the Ocean Reef Club, and I was there from 2012 to 2019. So
what did you do there?
I started outside operations there, and then funny thing, Ocean Reef is a very high-end private club. They also have a private club inside of the private club called the Card Sound Golf Club. And after 3 years of working at Ocean Reef Club, I got hired inside at the private club as an assistant there. So then I was there for the next 4 years working at Card Sound Golf Club. So my main areas there was kind of running the ladies golf events. So it's kind of their ladies man. So I did all the 18 holers, 9 holers, ladies clinics, you name it. But it also helped with day-to-day operations. So, but yeah, for the first few years, like I said, just to get some experience and your name in the door and some beautiful icons on your resume, clean clubs, member services, everything at the Ocean Reef Club, you name it. Typical outside operations 101, making sure the range was good, member services, you name it.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah. And it didn't get any easier because I did North and South for 9 years. So you go from one busy season, basically Halloween to Mother's Day. Well, a lot of times there's always a fight between my North Club and my South Club who wanted me back more to stay, but usually trying to get up by like May 1st into the Northeast Club, and then they try and keep you all the way through mid-October, Columbus Day-ish, and then down to Florida. So it's just busy season, nonstop. But for me, it was the best thing because like I said, I was a little late going into school, so I felt like I had to play a lot of catch up. So, and I was, 25 or 6, so might as well play golf all year, keep it going. So,
So you were split time between Ocean Reef and then up north. Where were you working up north?
I started at New Haven Country Club. I was there for a few years. And then from there, I went to Sleepy Hollow Country Club. And then after that, I was only at Ridgewood Country Club for 1 year. Then I ended up getting this job where I am now. I got hired as the head pro where I am now. Now I'm the executive director, which is basically a director of golf / GM. Not only do they allow me to do all the golf stuff, they also let me do all the fiscal and financial responsibilities for the whole club and keep it up to par for Sacred Heart University, who owns the facility.
Oh, okay. So Sacred Heart actually owns the golf.
Yep. They bought it in 2016, and then they really weren't sure what they were doing with it. And so in 2019, I got hired there as the head pro. The current head pro is now our director of instruction. He's a phenomenal teacher. Teaches a bunch of any high-end junior in the Northeast pretty much goes to him. He teaches a kid named Ben James. I think he's the number 2 amateur in the country. Plays out of Virginia. So that got him a lot of, eyes on him. So now every kid that parents think that he's going to be the next tour player comes to us. So, so our academy there got really busy, and they needed someone to really help transfer this club from what was more of a very public facility to what they wanted it to be, like a university type club, which it is now. Right? So basically our club is really open just to the members and then the affiliates of the university. So alumni, students, and the staff of the university can use the club.
Excellent. I'm
sorry.
I was just going to follow up with a question for Jason. Back to being at New Haven Country Club and Sleepy Hollow. Those are high-end, exclusive. I don't know if they're exclusive. I assume they're exclusive. I know they're very, very nice clubs. Mm-hmm. And then Ocean Reef, as you had just noted, was very exclusive. So why did you choose that type of facility? What was it about that attracted you to work at those kind of places?
Once all right, so I wasn't like 100%. I was looking for any, really good job at, like a big, bigger name club. But I got to just know my neighbor who was a member at a private club, the Hartford Golf Club in Connecticut. And it was more of the life that, everything that kind of went into like the private club. Right. So, it was just kind of, like when I met the pro there, Joe, he's just like, you might not make $1 million being the golf pro here, but you sure can live the life like you do, right? Just by being with these higher net worth people, going to pro-ams, and you know, you get to be an extension to their family to a certain degree, and that comes with a lot of perks. And it's just the facilities, the type of, you know, it's just catering to that type of lifestyle to me just came off more appealing. You know, coming really from how I grew up and not really having anything, that didn't seem like this side of the world. It was just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Because when you're at places like that, the membership, I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about the membership from the perspective of, did you ever get opportunities to leave golf because you're around really successful people in those kind of environments?
yeah, a lot of them will kind of pick your mind, right? If they, especially if they like you.
Mhm.
So good. I mean, not me, but close to me, my wife, she was in the country club business, and she got up to be an assistant GM at Quaker Ridge in Scarsdale, New York. And now one of their members hired her. Now she works for Blackstone, a private equity firm in the city, right? And now has a 9 to 5 life, probably makes double, if not more, than what she did as the assistant GM at a high end club. But she wanted, you know, she was okay with getting out. I eat, breathe, and sleep golf. You know, you can ask my wife that; she'll tell you. So, like, it never really crossed my mind. But yes, the opportunities are definitely there. There's plenty of guys that I work with, their assistants, that are now gone off and done other things just from working at these clubs, just because that network is so deep. And even back to that, we talk about kind of networking, kind of getting your job. It's also, again, having you know, a Rolodex of these members, right? That they're just members at all these other clubs in the Northeast. So getting the job at Sleepy Hollow for me was kind of easy, at least because I already had 2 members that I took care of in the winter that just put my name in the head pro's desk when they were looking for a new assistant. So, I mean, once a member's kind of speaking up for you, you really just can't mess up the interview, and you're pretty much locked in, right? So again, expanding your network, right, for all the, you know, the young aspiring professionals in your programs, right? Rather if they're going to be teachers or golf professionals or whatever route they want to go, right? Like, you know, who you know can really, especially in your younger years, can really help you, you know, open a lot of doors and take the right pathways. And that's, I mean, it was a great example for myself, right? Every job that I got was because of other people that I know from those networks that will shoot an email, a phone call over in your direction, right? Again, they're not guaranteeing you the job. You still got to do your part and have all your ducks in a row. But, you know, it sure does help at least get your resume into the right pile that they're going to consider you.
How did Sleepy Hollow? That's Cameron Young.
Yeah, Cameron was.
Right? That was the head pro.
Yep. Yeah. I worked for Dave. Great guy. Super, super smart. Like, unbelievable. This guy was, I think he was an aerospace engineer, and then realized kind of halfway through school that's not what he wanted to do, got in the golf business. So, I mean, you want to talk, I mean, part of like my success when we talk about the merchandise later, is like a lot was kind of watching and learning from him. This guy knew where every cent, every penny, you know, he knew his numbers like the back of his hand. He was so good with that side of it. And which was needed, because even back then in 2016 and 17, like they were doing close to 2 million in that shop. And like, that, you know, compared to other clubs, that was a lot. You know, obviously they have one of the coolest logos, and the type of club it is, a lot of guests, a lot of foot traffic, but no, it was definitely cool. I remember the first time I met Cameron, I was just hitting balls down at the practice facility, and someone's hitting balls. I can literally feel the ground shaking next to me. Like, that's how hard this guy compresses the ball. I'm like, what is that? I just turned around, and it was Cameron hitting probably 7 irons as far as hitting my 3-wood. And, you know, got to meet him there. Like I said, he was at Vanderbilt, so he was only home for a short period of time. Happened to win, I think, the New York State Open while he was there. But phenomenal player, super nice kid. Cool to watch.
Yeah. So Cameron Young's dad. It sounds like he built a pretty good network of contacts, people that knew, you know, what you could do and how you worked. Talk to me a little bit about that. The work ethic, generating mentorships, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love what you do first and foremost, right? So if you're in a bad situation, right, if you're at a club that really doesn't fit for you, it might not work. You probably want to look elsewhere. But yeah, I think, having that passion helps because people can see it. It's very easy, to see genuine, people that are interested and care about what they're doing. Right now, as someone that oversees an entire facility, I see it in every department, right? Right away who's really into what they do, right? And trust me, you see it as an employer, or you see it as a colleague. The members see it, they feel it. They gravitate towards those people. Those are the people that then will go and extend that to you. So making sure you always do your job. These high-end private clubs they are the nicest people, but they do have the highest, like they have high expectations. And as long as you can keep in line with those expectations, if not, surpass their expectations, like they'll do everything they can for you. They're there to have fun. Just even sidebar, funny story, because I met my wife working at the Ocean Reef Club, and she worked at the yacht club, the food and beverage side, and we'd always laugh because we had the same members. And she would be like, "Oh, this person, I don't really like them. I don't like them." And it's like, "Oh my God, they're the nicest people in the world." But it's a different aspect, especially in the golf industry, right? They're coming to you, they're coming there to have fun for 4+ hours, and they go to food, they even have higher expectations, and you really got to meet down for how the food tastes, how it's prepared, how it comes out. So they get to see a different side of the members. But again, yeah. So just to answer back to your question is, yeah, as long as you have the passion, the work ethic should follow that, right? Just doing what you need to do, doing it in a timely manner, and always just going above and beyond. And again, for most of us that love the business, it comes pretty easy to us, right? It's we always say it's always, at least where I sit now, right? It's not so much about competency, right? Because a lot of guys are young and they're getting into it. It's like you can teach them the skills, but competencies issues are easy to fix. Character issues, you can't. That's a different subject. So, if you don't love it, things are going to go wrong. Or you're just not going to do the right things at the right time. But I think anybody that's kind of going to your program really has that passion for golf, no matter what direction they're going. So just working hard and love what you do, and make sure you keep in touch is another good one. I'm not a big fan of like friending members on like social networks or anything, but you can still just shoot them emails, stay in touch. If you're in the area, I still go. If I'm traveling, like I was lucky enough to be invited to the TaylorMade Invitational at Pebble when I know a couple members, Monterey Peninsula Club and Cypress. Of course, I just happen to remember their emails when I reached out to them to go out there. Not even maybe some self-serving in there, but also you just keep in touch with them. They love it. They love to hear from you. They're not going to forget you as long as you, like I said, did all the things before, made your mark on them.
And we say mentorship. I mean, I think you're a mentor now to some of your assistant pros. Talk to me about what does that mean, mentorship?
Yeah, it happens quick too, and you don't even realize it. Next thing you know, you think you're still just kind of working your way up, thinking about you, and all of a sudden you notice all these people are kind of looking up to you, and you're they're hanging on what you're saying, and watching your every move. And I think leading by example is always the first start, right? And then like I said, you can kind of see, like I have my one assistant, he's been there. He was just working outside ops as a college kid before I even got there. And then, he kind of hung around, saw what I was doing, saw we changed the place, saw what, life has, in the golf pro world could be. And he wanted to get into it. So we've been helping him now. He passed his PAT 2 years ago. He's doing all his PGA work. So it's just trying to keep him in line, setting him goals and helping him with any of the subjects that get tough. And then that kind of just like word got around. And then now we had a female pro and 2 other assistants, and we're all kind of doing the book work together and helping everyone go through. And it's, when they do everything that they can, like for me to kind of just sit down and check in with them is the least I could do for them. Right. But again, leading by example, I still think is the biggest thing you can do. Right. They see how I interact with members, how I answer the phone, how, you deal with difficult situations. Right. And, they're always paying attention. So you always got to be on your A game. Like one of our mottos, right? Every day is opening day. Always giving it everything you got every single day.
Jason, Roanne, who's on the call here, she asked about forfeits and managing, your team. I think that's what she's referring to. So when it comes to hiring people, what's a good fit for you, and maybe what's not a good fit for you when it comes to hiring folks to work for you at your facility?
Yeah, well, hiring when I first got there was very, very tough. One, kind of given our area, we're wedged in between a lot of big names. You got you got Wingfoot, Quaker Ridge, Westchester Country Club, Hudson National, Sleepy Hollow. I mean, all within 25 miles of us. So when you're trying to hire an assistant and they are too, you're almost picking up, whatever they didn't want, or sometimes you win logistically. But when hiring, I always look more to see, like, where do they want to go, right? We have a lot of people and interns, that look for jobs, and then it's just like, what do you want to do? And it's just like, if they don't really have a clue, it's a lot harder. But when they come to you, if they want to be a teacher, or they want to be a head pro, or those are the things we look at. Someone that has, like, somewhat, right? They don't have to have all the answers, but at least some sort of direction of what they want to do. Right. Because then I can align what I need from them to match where they want to go, and we can both win in this relationship. When, let's say 2 years ago, we had an intern, and, we were just happy because, again, when I first got there, you weren't getting anyone that, we started getting this influx now between, winning some of these awards, hosting an Epson tour event, people now, there's a lot going on at the club, and, being highly rated, like, now people want to, come to us to get involved. But, so at first we're so excited to get interns, and they get in there and they just, I don't think the kid's in the program anymore, but, you just get the kid that sits there on the stool in the pro shop and just on his phone. Like, they just don't have the same drive. So what I look for is just someone that at least has a vision of where they want to go, right? They might not know all the steps to get there, but if it's being a teacher, being a head pro, maybe getting into tournament management, at least they have some sort of direction. That's kind of where, we can then work together, like I said, to align what I need and what they need to work together towards two goals, but common interests. So.
And then
Good.
Jason,
Thank you.
yeah, I was going to say, you talked a little bit about the PGA program. What was that experience like for you? Working full time, trying to do your coursework. How was that?
Oh, it's not easy, right? So right when I graduated, I went down Ocean Reef. I was still working very hard to get my game in shape, and I was lucky on my second attempt I passed my PAT, and so then I started doing my book work, and being first year in the job, and then I just got the first year assistant job at New Haven. Right after that, it was I did my seminar on the way up from Florida back up to the Northeast, stopped in Port St. Lucie, did my seminar, and then you're just learning so much that the first level is definitely the hardest, and I understand why people say that. Not only is it the longest, but it's a lot, especially from just graduating to now working two different places and trying to learn the system, because you're still very young and new to the industry. But it's not easy, and I completely understand why a lot of people struggle with it, especially the guys that are working. Back then, unluckily, right before they changed some of the labor laws, like, oh, you're an assistant here, you get $500 a week, and you're going to work 70 hours a week and have one day off, and you might try and play a tournament that day, or whatever it is. You just got to catch up on life, laundry and shopping, or whatever you need to do, and then you're working all, you go from one busy section, like there's not like a downtime in your life to where, like, okay, I'm going to start working on my PGA work in the winter or the summer, wherever section you are. It was hard, and it was the motivating factor was probably more watching my friends who already finished it going on to bigger jobs, because back then, a lot of times, in the industry, you needed to have your PGA to get to that next step. Even if you want to lead assistant job at a good place, you had to be a PGA member. Only associates only got you to a certain pay rank. So after, a year and a half of, kind of working the outside, I knew I wanted to, move my way up. I figured out the outside operations pretty quickly, luckily working for a couple of big operations. And to do so, I had to start knocking out my PGA work. So I then, let's see, probably 2014, finished one. I think I did two. I just knocked them out year after year. And yeah, it stinks. You got to make some sacrifices, right? A little, especially when you have some cool places like in New York or the Florida Keys. You got to think, oh, I'm just going home tonight. Not going to hang out with all the assistant guys, and just study and get it done. And then it wasn't even easier because now I was getting into lead roles after I got my PGA when I went back to do the bachelor's, and it was a lot. You're doing some semester, you're doing like 4 classes, like, man, it was a lot. So, but again, it was the same thing. And now I have my PGA, and it was getting me this far. And it's the same thing. It was like most head pro jobs. You had to have a bachelor's. It was required. You're like, oh, all right, let's just keep going. Just keep pounding the drum and to get there. And
Yep, sounds like you paid your dues for sure.
yeah, I earned some gray hairs pretty quick, but it's all good.
Tell us a little bit more about this relationship with Sacred Heart. Like, so they own the golf course. Are you an employee of Sacred Heart, or how's that all?
Yeah, all the management staff is Sacred Heart employees. So again, they bought it in 2016, and they just didn't really know what they were doing with it. And it was really a bad situation there because, again, there was no direction. There was no vision of what they wanted to do. So then when I got kind of hired, got to know the right people and kind of really just help them kind of bring it to where I was pretty sure they wanted to be. Right. Yeah. You can see in like those photos that they really wanted like pristine. They wanted a lot of the guys that are on the Sacred Heart board are members at private clubs everywhere else, but they also wanted, the university bought it for, X million dollars. Like they wanted to have the university's presence. So trying to take what I already knew and then what they wanted and help them build it to, something that's really special for, university affiliates. And then, like I said, you're not going to make enough money just doing this, especially for what it costs to operate this place, just doing it on students and affiliates. You have to come to terms that you're going to lose $1 million a year, or, we have to look at other ways. So then we started really pumping the membership side. So now the only way you can really play here is to be a member of the club or a Sacred Heart affiliate. And now we've brought enough membership dues that helps cover all the operating expenses. And then, so now you can give it to the students and the staff for a discounted rate. And it's just a nice perk for them. But no, yep. I was just
Well,
go ahead. I was going to say, if you know anything about the university, right? They're a big private Catholic university in here. So you go on there there's not a blade of grass out of place. Like they keep everything immaculate there, and rightfully so because they charge enough money. But and they just want that same environment over here. So that's part of like my gig is not only overseeing the entire golf operation, but making sure the facility is an extension of what the university not only looks like but acts like. You abide by their ethics. You got to keep big corporation like that, you got to abide by, make sure everything's in line with all their policies and procedures, so yeah, all the management are university employees, which is a good and bad, right? It's good because it's a good attraction. You get a good benefit package. But now as the guy that has to oversee the financials, you see how much that burden costs you. Every dollar they make costs me 35 cents in benefits, so it's an expensive habit. Sure. Or benefit, but no, it's great. They want the place to succeed. They want it to be, a very special place, and their vision for it and my vision for it now are like just in line, and they give me a lot of autonomy to keep, making the place successful. So we brought in
I was looking at I was looking at your website, and I was looking at, doing a little background on you, and just a question as executive director at your facility. there's a golf academy there. There's the Monty's River Grill. Are you involved in those operations as well? Do you oversee those folks, or is that separate?
Yeah, so I oversee them. We do manage all aspects. We don't sub any of the food and beverage or
Okay.
anything out, right? Yep. So we have well, we just agreed to it. We have a $2.5 million training facility being built as we speak, but we currently have two indoor facility training, kind of our golf academy. So we have a director of instruction, and then we have both the men and women D1 golf teams that play out of there. So busy academy. Then we have a restaurant. Lucky for me, I have like a food and beverage director, and I kind of like rely on him a lot because that was kind of the agreement when I took the job was like, hey, I'll make sure that they're in line with all the compliance that the university needs, and I'll make sure that our standards and are up to par for what the membership and the guests expect, and I'll hold them accountable financially. But I'm like, you're not going to see me in there at 6:30 dinner service helping with food and beverage because I would just be a disaster in there. That's not my area of expertise.
That's what
I'd be more in the
that
way
question.
than I would be helping anyone if they saw me in there. So I do my best to be more of a supporting leadership for them than really a hands-on guy on their part. I let the food and beverage professionals do what the food and beverage professionals do. Same with our greens and grounds crew, right? I just really try to provide the support. And then just same thing, because obviously every superintendent would only want the course open a couple hours a day so they could do their stuff. So I got to keep in mind what we need to be successful, but also, what he needs to make sure the course is in the best shape possible. So
Sounds like a good executive director.
Yep. Just stay in your lane as to a certain degree, right? And just tell them what they're expected to do, how much money they have, and again, just open door to hopefully help them with any issues that may arise. But golf, I definitely is more of where is the biggest hat I wear, right? So we have 5 professionals on staff, right? Well, 3 associates, 2 professionals, probably another 20 plus outside operations team throughout the season. So it's a big operation, so.
Yeah. So back to your merchandising, when you started there and where you were last year, you've basically doubled sales in the time that you've been there. So
Mhm.
how much different is your golf shop operations and merchandise operations compared to 5 years ago when you started?
Yeah, no, they're night and day. Well, it's obviously every part of the operation is night and day different, all right? And the pro shop was definitely a benefactor of it because one we brought in, obviously just took some of the basics, right? Of the merchandise, right? I was lucky when I worked at Ocean Reef Club. I worked for guy Scott Kirkwood. He won the National Merchandiser of the Year award, and like he run just one of the finest golf shops that you can ever see. From the displays to the products they bring, the creativities between logos and colors, and he was just really ahead of his time with all of that. And then you combine it with how good of a businessman, the backside of the business that Dave Young was, and just kind of taking those 2 experiences and walking into this place. And so we just you got the ABCs done real quick, right? All the basics of the business side of it. So all your your ordering, your receiving, we have procedures for everything. There's checklists. This is how we do it, and then bringing in kind of what I've seen at other clubs, right? The products, the displays, we changed it there, all at the same time while we kind of were revamping this whole club, right? So it went from 100 something members, so now we have 300. So now you have more people that are more interested in the club, getting more of the university people there. So now they want more of the product, right? And then it was having it. The old general manager and old shop manager, they were very, let's say, they were kind of afraid, so they wouldn't bring in a lot of product, because they didn't want to get stuck with product. So I was like, you have a 2,000 square foot shop. Like, it looks awful in here with the amount of product you have in here. And then if you don't have the sale to make it, like, or the stuff to make the sale, then you're never going to make that sale. And now people see it as different. They can come to the shop to get anything they want, like from clubs to equipment to, you name it. We've sold everything in there, from casual clothes to, we've worked with every brand there is, trying to do a lot of custom stuff. And you walk into it now, or if you see the pictures from it and like the magazines, like you think it's like, whoa, like that's every person who walks in there is like, wow, this is like the best golf shop I've ever seen. Like, it's,
Let me interrupt you there for a second, Jason, for the folks listening at home or who will be watching this later on the tape. So a little bit of a Cinderella story here, right? So this golf club up there in Connecticut, they won section merchandiser of the year a couple times. Jason was coming in there, and then this course up in Connecticut that nobody in Connecticut's ever won national merchandiser of the year, but Jason's team did win that award in 2024, national merchandiser of the year, which is pretty amazing. And it sounds like you took what you learned before, you compared what you've seen that looked really good and worked really well. I know I've seen you at the PGA merchandise show. That must be pretty important for you to go to every year.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm an education junkie, so that's my favorite thing about going to the show. The hardest thing about going to the show is trying to align with how many like educational things I can fit in that day. And sometimes you have a couple of good ones going on at the same time, and you have to coin flip which one you're going to go to. But so what you said, and it's good. I could give everyone that listens or watches this any advice is just always to pay attention, right? I don't think I'm the most creative person whatsoever. I was just someone that always paid attention. So if you look at some of our tournaments, right, our weekend Saturday game is the same game that we ran at Cardstown. Our Wednesday Twilight League for our member Twilight League, it's the same Twilight League that they ran, same concept that they did at New Haven. I took all the things that I liked and I saw that worked at all these other clubs, and I brought them into, this golf operation. We, you talk about doubling our, sales, which, we did, that we quadrupled how much member credit we were giving out. And that was part of it too. They weren't really running any events for the members. I think there was like 5. We have over 40 events now, right? And that's not including like weekend little fun games where guys throw in $10. But all that adds up. You have 50 guys every weekend to get in. There's $500 comes in. Times it by 20 weeks, boom, it's an extra 10 grand. You just now have, like, in shop credit you give out that they have to use. So it was all those little things that, again, like I said, that we were building a bigger, better culture and operation for this club. And like the pro shop sales and growth, it wasn't like a target of ours. Like, we were just watching it, just organically happen. That, people have more credit to spend, but they're enjoying the club more. You have more foot traffic. The guests liked it more. The look of it. So when you're hosting outings, people are like, whoa, this, like, again, the wow factor when you walk into that 2,000 square foot golf shop that is now like stocked to the brim. But it does give me a little anxiety time to time when we have a little too much merchandise on hand getting close to the end of the year. But you just look at your numbers and you kind of know where you are on the sales side of it. And you're like, okay, I know we got the holidays coming up, and, we'll find ways to get rid of it, move it. So I think, like I said, that's where I think then you throw in the COVID boom on top of it. It was, a lot of the stars aligned right in a row for us, but it was, lots of hard work and redefining the business and culture of this place. Like I said, that how the membership growth, all the other sales in every department, like, was succeeding was, like I said, it was nice because it was very, like I said, organically. It wasn't like targeted. This is what we're doing, right? There's a lot of initiatives that we started that, again, created the right response from the consumers. So,
sorry, is that your logo there, the one that I have on the screen?
Yep. So that was another perk for us too. When I got there, it was kind of like this little like GR logo, but there's a Sacred Heart Pioneer. So we pondered over a logo for years, and then they already had this one before they even bought the golf course. they ran an alumni event called the Pioneer Open, and that was they created that logo a long time ago, and it was like we're just kind of searching through the archives. I'm like, you already have this logo. It's already approved by the university board. Like, let's use it. And they were coming with all sorts of really bad ideas, and then we we lobbied for this one pretty hard because I knew we could brand it very well, and now it's everywhere, and people love it, right? Some of the old members have been there for like 20 years, still want the GR, and I told them that we'll start bringing it back in for limited edition stuff and some nostalgic stuff for the older members, but for the most part, all the alumni, all the affiliates, they identify that now kind of as the club, and it's been a big hit, and we just keep doing different renditions with it and making limited edition stuff for any of the merchandise people out there. That's the biggest thing in the game right now. We do limited drops on product and hats and head covers. Like, this is it. Once they're gone, and they just disappear pretty quickly.
Jason, did you on the golf side of things, did you teach very much? And I know at the beginning you were running clinics and ladies clinics and stuff like that. Did you continue with that?
Yeah, we have more teaching requests than we can handle, even with this amount of staff we have. Again, with our director of instruction, Tom, being so busy, right? He doesn't have that much time for the members. So between me, I have a senior professional, as they call him. He really helps me in the golf side of it. He was the director of golf at Yale forever, and then he kind of retired, and I hired him as part-time, and now the poor guy probably works 5 or 6 days a week all on his own. I don't make him. He's just he's just an industry guy that's been around, and he just he knows how it goes. But between me, him, my other assistants, like it's so hard to keep up with it, right? I started a ladies 4-hole beginner clinic back in 2001, and you're getting 30 to 40 ladies, and you're like, oh my God, nobody even knew these people were out there, and like no one tapped into that market. So like I just threw out an email, who wants to come? And our first time was like 30 people showed up. Like, okay, there's 30 ladies at this club, but yeah, so we can't keep up with it really. So I do a lot of programs now. So I do a program. It's called Breaking 70, but we have different ones like Breaking 80, Breaking 90, and it's kind of a match. It's just kind of like a fuller version of almost Operations 36. So we do like an hour clinic every day. It's really short game focused. So I call them more of practice sessions, not so much clinics, right? Because they know the work that goes into it, right? I send it out to them each week. Here's the practice schedule for the week. And then just kind of hang out with them when they show up. And then they got to go out and they start from 100 yards and they got to shoot whatever, if they're trying to break 90, 80, 70, whatever it might be. And then they kind of work their way back to 150, 200 red tees. So it's a lot of fun. And there's like 38 of them, I think, people have signed up for it. So every day there's 8 to 12 people here for those sessions. So they love it. They have to. The course is so hard. You have to get better to play here. It is an absolute bear. I was telling you on the phone, like we host an Epson Tour event. We are the hardest tournament on their schedule. We have the highest stroke average there of all their events. Like, you don't get off the tee here. It's a long day.
It looks like it just from the pictures. Like, oh, okay, it's trouble there.
Yep. Sell a lot of golf balls to people that don't play that much here.
Hey, Donna, how you doing? I want to hear from Donna. Donna's got to have a question for you. She's showing me the hand.
Yeah.
She's on mute. All right. Brian, do you have anything you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that logo looked really nice on my new hat.
Yeah, it will.
We sent him a Keiser shirt, so maybe.
Yeah, I do owe you.
Yeah. No, I've been listening a lot, and Jason, it's interesting. My own flashbacks here. I'm listening to a guy who, when I first met, was a student. Now I'd like him to be a teacher.
Yeah.
It's really. It does an old heart good to see a guy succeed as well as you have and talk as intelligently about all this stuff as you have. And I will speak for Donna to a certain degree. One of the things Donna always emphasizes is where your golf ball can take you.
Mm.
And you got into this just like we all got into this because you like to play golf, but you were smart enough to realize that being a good business person is going to take you a long way. So it's fun to see, very fun to see. I got one question for you relative to our students. You weren't perfect. Nobody is. If you had a mulligan from your time at Keiser, what would it be?
Oh, so it's funny because there's always the grass is greener, right? Or, you know, for golf analogy, right? It's like, oh, I shouldn't have laid up. I should have went for it. You know, you never know what the outcome was going to be. But not only was I trying to get, you know, into the golf business, when I also got there, you know, I was also just kind of revamping who I was as a person. So I probably spent 50, maybe 60-40 more on even more of like the fitness side and trying to just, you know, get myself back into being the best person I could be. And so now, like, okay, the fitness worked out, but now it's like, now because you're so busy all the time, like, man, I really wish I could go back to only having to go to class for 4 hours a day, than having the ability to practice and play like every day. Yeah, I would have spent, you know, 80% more time playing and practicing. But
okay. It's a good answer.
Then I would have been the other way, like, oh, I wish I went to the gym more.
Yeah.
At the time. But
no, it's always something we see at graduation where the reality of, hey, I'm not in school anymore hits.
Yeah.
And you hear, I wish I would have.
Yeah. You hear it everywhere, you know. I can say that other jobs that you worked at, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I played more at Sleepy Hollow. I mean, I feel like I got enough rounds in there, but like, you know, now even as what I call, you know, they call an alumni as a staff professional there, like it's still, they're so busy. It's super exclusive now that it's and now that Dave's gone, at least when Dave was there, I could always shoot him a text, but now it's hard to get out there. So you're like, man, I should have played that more.
Well, and the whole time you're out playing, you're thinking about what you should be doing back in the office, right?
Yeah. Or I should have replied to that, or I should have done, you know, I should have done my PGA work and got my Class A faster, or you never know. But you can't, like I said, it's the same thing in like golf, right? Like, oh, I should have laid up in that shot and I would have made I wouldn't have made a bogey, or, you know, or it's the other way. Like, you know, I missed our state open qualifier by 2. And I'm like, I should have went for it on that par 5, you know, and, you know, could have got in, you know, but you just never know. I could have went for it on the par 5, hit in the woods and missed by 8.
I got one more question for you, then I'll be done.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right, Donna. One more question for you, Jason. What's next?
Wow.
Are you going to be in Connecticut for the rest of your life until the hair goes away, the gray hair goes away?
Yeah. No, I mean, right now everything's really good. Can't really complain. Pretty happy with everything in life. But I would say for me personally, like now that like I said, I kind of got the club in the direction. It's in a really good spot, right? Trying to pick up my own golf clubs a little bit more. Get back into that realm. Not that I would say I practice a little bit almost every day, but not getting as many rounds on the card. Right. And just you got your ear to the street of what's out there. Kind of at this spot, I'm already kind of at the top that it can be. So it would always be what if there was a move, it would always just be, you know, a bigger club, or, you know, you could even look at the other way, because now that you look back at it, it was very rewarding to take this place from what it was, a really, you know, struggling, failing club, to bringing it now to one of the best spots in the state, you know. And it's, you know, there's still a lot of work that's got to get done there, but, you know, at some point you kind of hit that, hey, what else can I do here? And it's, you know, you don't want to get complacent, because then that's when things can get away from you. Right. So,
well, with the job you're doing, be prepared. You might be getting phone calls.
Yeah. You never know. But thank you.
I think I stepped on Donna a second ago. Donna, go ahead.
No, I was just going to have you. I know this is being recorded, Jason, for some of our students, but let's go back to when you were first here and golf. I know you lost like 48 pounds or something, and you did all your fitness stuff, and that's when Donna Tucci was over there. You know, we had access to, you know, at the Learning Center, and I know you spent a lot of time fitness and did some certifications and stuff. So can you kind of tap in on that? Have you been able to blend some of that fitness and some of those types of things to your career?
Yeah, I definitely, because when I first got there, yeah, I was definitely not in a good shape whatsoever. And then I was lucky that, a couple of kids in my class, we all kind of started getting into the gym at the same time. It was nice because it was right there at the facility. And then it was kind of like same time when like the whole TPI thing was really just starting to kind of take off and running. And then, yeah, having that luxury of right at the practice facility that, David Donatucci was there training all his, players. And yeah, I just volunteered. He didn't even pay me. I worked there a couple of days a week just to learn from him, just to understand just kind of some of the biomechanics and how, fitness and physical therapy play such a big part into the motion. I tried bringing it to a lot of places. A lot of it would be more like junior development stuff that I could do. So there wasn't just like your generic kind of like junior clinic. Like, so we'd start building in some like functional movement training, but it was hard for me to add it because most places like Ocean Reef is just a monster of its place. It has its own big fitness facility, and they already kind of had golf fitness classes going, and then other places just didn't have the facility or the gym. So it was kind of limited, but I would definitely do some things, and to try and at least educate the members a little bit. But it's still more of just a passion of mine now. I don't really use it too much into into like any like programs that I run. We do have, obviously, with the school having the 2 D1 teams there, we do have a TPI, personal trainer on property there all the time. So
Right.
we do, well, I guess, so that is a lie, because we did winter classes. So in our ballroom this year, because there's nothing going on, so we did winter fitness classes all winter. So we did senior ones, beginner ones, just to try and get some correct body movement corrections going on.
Okay. Well, thanks. Anyway, congrats. I'm proud of you, and who knows where you'll be within the next 2 years. Look forward to following you the rest of your career.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. No, all of you, but Brian, Donna, John, TJ, Frank, you guys are all, big influences. Again, I was a sponge there, just ready to soak up anything that you guys would, tell me. I was just glad that you all told me the right thing. So like I said before, I don't say that I created really anything. I just paid attention and then took the things that were, important to me and kind of, molded it into the business that I operate now.
Cool.
All right, Brad, you want to take us home?
Yeah, okay. Jason, thanks so much for your time. That was I think we could I still have more and more questions to ask. I am going to follow up with you because that practice schedule for the week that you put out for your members, I might have to chat with you on that because that sounds like a really cool idea where you do some kind of supervised practice. So, hey, as much as I've been in business, I still learn from lots of people, and I'm learning a few things from you tonight. Again, we really appreciate you spending some time with us, and all the students are going to be seeing your message and see you as a model of what they could potentially do. But as you have done and demonstrated, you got to put the time and effort in. So one of the quotes you said, "Our opportunities are everywhere." That's what I read from you. And I don't know if there's any opportunities you see, but if there's any last things you might share with our students, that would be great.
Yeah. So like when I said that, it was kind of just in reference to, just creating some of the programs. Again, I was very lucky that this place, when I got there, really didn't have much. So like I got to be the curator of everything, right? So I got to make the tournament schedule, right? You go to other private clubs and like, nope, this is already done. They have a tournament committee. This is the schedule. This is how the format is. So part of my, success was that I was able to go in there and create it. But back to when we were talking about employment, right? There's, opportunities. I had 3 people, now that they weren't even coming to me looking to be like assistants or in the golf industry. They were just people looking for a job, you know, just out of college, and just kind of chatting with them and seeing, you know, 2 of them played D1 golf, and I was just like, oh, you interested in this? You know, can make a little more money than just cleaning carts. And now one is a, you know, a sales rep for TaylorMade. Our female professional now, she works year round as the ladies ambassador at Panther National. You know, I got 2 assistants already gone on to get, you know, head pro jobs. Like, and these guys were just coming in looking for regular jobs, and we just kind of molded them. And, you know, that was like the opportunity. So when you're, you know, your back's kind of against the wall where you can't find, you know, you might not be able to have the resources that you're looking for. You got to be creative and, you know, think of solutions that can kind of get you to where you want to go. You know, it took, again, more gray hairs out of me because you had to train so much of them, you know, and then it's a sad thing when they leave the nest and go on to these better jobs. But, you know, like I said, just keep your eyes open to what's out there. Right. And same thing with jobs. Right. So I had this whole private club pedigree, you know, ready to take over, you know, the next, you know, private club. And all of a sudden I made the risky decision to go into a failing semi-private club that, you know, if it didn't work out, could really have set me back and not even kind of tanked my career path. So fortunate that, you know, that hard work and all the things that I learned, you know, paid off, and we got the place to what it is now. And so it's just, I guess, back to your students is same with golf, right? You got to take calculated risks. And even when you're going to take conservative ones, you still got to be aggressive in those conservative, you know, targets, right? So
Yeah, you got to be prepared for those opportunities when they show up, right? So
yeah,
again, thank you so much for your spending some time with us. Gene, thanks for setting this thing up. And for everyone on the call, you all have a good evening.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
See you in Orlando.